HNA SkyBridge, I mean, you talk about hair on a deal. There's been hair on this deal from the beginning. I mean, he basically sold it to go into the White House.
He being Anthony Scaramucci,
Anthony Scaramucci, to go into the White House for a minute.
For a minute. Actually, 10 days. Come on.
10 days.
Which in Trumpland is actually quite a long time.
Woo,
but he made this deal to sell this thing. And then he came out of the White House. And then HNA ran into trouble with China. So I guess one question is this really a question of CFIUS and really being concerned about that? Or is this really, maybe HNA was not as invested in the deal when Mr. Scaramucci was not in the White House anymore?
As they were, and maybe the influence that he could bring them when he was in the White House.
That's speculation.
Well,
but speculate. One might speculate.
So, look, I think CFIUS would have looked at something like this anyway because they are just being very tough on any Chinese deal. It doesn't really matter on the sector or the size. So this probably would have got a review. Whether it would have got quite such a tough review remains to be seen. And of course, the question at the time is, were HNA going to overpay for this asset or, pay a much higher multiple than had previously been seen in the fund-to-fund space? And what would they be getting in exchange for that?
Well, but what's interesting to me is that Anthony Scaramucci is going back to the firm and is going to be a fundraiser. Yeah. So there is a question of whether his whole escapade in the White House actually brandished his reputation, whether it was positive for fundraising or not. And it raises a lot of questions on that front.
Well, and they were very clear. They're keeping the management team together that's been running it, and he will be the marketing, the face of the outside world, which goodness knows he's terrific at. I mean, he's wonderful at that. But at the same time, the thing we haven't speculated about is his tax situation. Because if you recall, when he went in, the idea was he'd get a tax break, which you do when you go into the government by selling out. But it wasn't clear that he was there long enough to get it. So this may actually benefit him by not having a huge tax bill.
But meanwhile, you also have HNA that's trying to divest of assets right now. So there's a question of whether they actually want to be involved at this point in any acquisition.
Plus, Scaramucci has put a value on his shop, right? Whoever comes in next, they now know that the price is X, which is pretty good for him because it's a very high price.